Welcome to the Festival of Storytellers.
I thank everybody that's involved with this process because we know writers need readers and writers need publishers.
Experience is not about the publisher, it is about us, the authors.
Good afternoon, those attendees of the Online Storytellers Festival. My name is Darren DC Lyons, and I'm excited by what this day will bring. I'm well trained and highly motivated by the task at hand. Yesterday's problems are today's possibilities. Yesterday's obstacles are today's opportunities. I shall not fail. What I lack in skill, I will make up with enthusiasm. Victory is my destiny because I'm excited by what this day will bring. I'm so happy to be with you all, and I'm here to talk about my book as an author with worn out tools, navigating the rituals of midlife. It is my story of how in 1 year I went from a corporate executive traveling the world, spending time in Guatemala, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guyana, and the Philippines. And in that 1 year, after celebrating my 50th birthday, I went to becoming a below knee amputee because of a freak accident. This is my book. And if you ask what my story is, I'll tell you a little bit about it. I was traveling the world as a corporate executive, having a great career. And I lost my job, and one day I cut my left heel by putting it in my snow boot. And because I was a diabetic, I neglected at getting that looked at, and it just was a bad mistake. And the book is about all those things I learned. It's a story about all the things I learned about 4 core values: resiliency, resiliency, optimistic humor. I apologize. Resiliency, optimistic humor, accountability, and relationships. Those things play major themes throughout my book. I call it rituals of midlife because everybody goes through them. Think about it like this: Hollywood is full of stories about coming of age, and they are celebrated. They are celebrated and look to. Think about it: first kiss, first car, first prom, first marriage. But midlife has those milestones as well, and they're not as celebrated. They are change of job, relocation, downsizing a career, and sometimes even more serious with sickness or the death of a loved one. With Worn Out Tools is my story about how I use resiliency, uh, optimistic humor, accountability, and relationships to get through that midlife ritual. And I call it a ritual because everybody goes through it. Believe me, I've had a lot of young people read my book and say, when I say young people, people who are not midlife, they say, wow, I wanted to know what I was going to go through or what's in store for me. And how you go through those things really determines the third act of your life. If you give up, you have a life of not being flexible or mobile or independent. But if you fight back, if you really fight back, you can have a life where other things come to you, other opportunities. For me, since my health issues, and I have more than one health issue, but since my health issues, I've written 2 books and published them. I've also, as an executive coach, I've also had about 20 clients, leaders in 4 different countries, and I've trained over 650 leaders in the color code personality assessment. How you doing, Betty? Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. So my book is with Worn Out Tools, Navigating Rituals of Midlife, and it's my story. Think about it like this. You always hear stories about people who are young and coming of age, which is beautiful. But we have our stories too. And I think I've catered this book to those stories as well. A lot of people ask me where the title of the book, With Worn Out Tools, comes from. And it comes from the 4th stanza of the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. And the poem says, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to lay a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. You're giving some tools in your bag, I like to say, and those tools are supposed to help you. Hey, Carmen. And those tools are supposed to help you in your life, right? If they're good looks, if they're charm, if they're personality, if it's physical strength, those tools are supposed to help you through life. But by the time you get to midlife, some of those tools are worn out. They begin to fade. Think about your sense of humor becomes a little stale, and your physical strength begins to brittle. When life beats against those things, those characteristics, they're challenged. Well, the good news is those worn out tools can be resharpened and it can help you get to your third act. And Carmen, I saw your quote or your comment, and it's resiliency, optimistic humor, accountability, and relationship. The reason I say that is because those words, those initials, spell out the acronym ROAR, and my last name is Lyons. Lyons with a Y and not I. All right. That's with Worn Out Tools, Navigating the Rituals of Midlife. And I want to read you a little bit from the book, but let me see what Carmen's saying. Yes, Carmen, those are very important characteristics or values. And I say optimistic humor, not just because it completes the acronym, but because I believe humor shouldn't be cruel. I believe humor should give people hope. And that's what optimistic humor does. I wanted to share a little bit of this book and read from page 80 of the book. It's 105 pages, a quick read. A lot of people have told me it's the only book they fully read since college. And I'm proud of that. On page 80, from the chapter called A Skilled Nurse Facility, it describes my first time standing up on my prosthetic leg. As I said before, I've had several health issues, 2 below knee amputations. I've had a stroke, dialysis because of kidney disease, and I have a heart condition. So I've been challenged with some health issues, some midlife crises or midlife rituals. And this part of the book describes my first time standing up on my prosthetic leg under my own power. I gained some weight. I had not yet started dialysis, and I was struggling getting up on my own legs. So I was dropped off at a skilled nurse facility. And any of you who have had health issues know that a skilled nurse facility is really a fancy name for a nursing home. And I tried to describe the loneliness and the desperation that I felt when this happened. So let me read this with Worn Out Tools, page 80. After the weekend dietitian wrestled me up some peanut butter and a salad, no dressing or tomatoes, Renata and God Emperor left me alone in my room. The remote for the flat screen did not work, and the facilities engineer, of course, was off duty for the weekend. Never start your stay in a skilled nurse facility on the weekend, I thought savagely. As I sat there alone, dejected and discouraged, I saw my prosthetic leg haphazardly propped up in the corner of the room on the top of my personal effects. My wife and I nicknamed my prosthetic leg Ralph Lauren, or Ralphie for short. Ralph Lauren, code word for residual limb. Although I got my leg in August, I had not spent any real time in using it. As a matter of fact, my failing kidney caused me to gain 90 pounds of fluid since my amputation, so in a 4-month period. The fluid gain made it impossible for me to even stand on my leg under my own power. I had not demonstrated the strength or confidence to even try and stand up without the assistance of 2 parallel bars at the rehab facility. But desperation, however, is a powerful motivator. And my introduction to a skilled nurse facility certainly filled me with desperation. With no distractions, I heard the refrain of a sermon I once heard in my mind once again, admonishing me to fight, fight, fight. With that talk track cutting through the silence of my room, I got dressed, transferred from my bed to my wheelchair, and rolled across the room to retrieve my prosthetic limb. I rolled back across the room and positioned my chair facing the bed. After strapping on Ralphie, I took a deep breath, leaned forward, and stood up on my leg under my own strength for the very first time. As I stood there with the chair behind me and the bed in front of me, in case I fell, I thought to myself, I might make it through this. I might make it back to life. That's page 80 from my book with Worn Out Tools, available on Amazon.com and available on Barnes & Noble or anywhere books are sold. Also, you can get an autographed copy of our website, www.courier.com. I see a question from JB. Hey, JB, I think you came before. How does the pursuit of new goals and passions during midlife contribute to overall well-being? And what strategies can be employed to discover the pursuit of fulfilling endeavor? That's a great question, JB, and thank you for it. Hey, JB, one of the things I did was after I had my first amputation, like I told you before, I've had 2 amputations. And after my first, and the book is about the first amputation, I started to write this book. And I started to write actually my first book, which is A Day in the Life in a Skilled Nurse Facility, short stories from a young man trapped in a nursing home. And then after I wrote the first book, I got a lot of good feedback from it. So I started on with Worn Out Tools. I started writing that book because I was going through dialysis and I needed something to fill the time in 3.5 hours or 4 hours I was in dialysis. But then I said, well, I need a business to surround around this. I was a fully disabled person and need a way to support myself. So I built a business, and that business is Courier Inc. And it's a writing, training, coaching, and speaking business. Writing, training, coaching, and speaking. And setting goals for that business, or setting goals for myself about something, health goals, setting goals really helped me to be motivated to move forward. That's what helped me with my comeback, my 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 return to life, right? Setting goals and following through on those goals. Not all of them and not perfectly, but definitely having goals of things I want to accomplish. Also, because I was going through this health issue, for the very first time thrown into the health system. To overcome that, you really got to be an advocate for yourself. That's probably the best thing I learned. The best thing I've learned is to be an advocate for my own health. Ask questions, question things, challenge things. They may not like you, but a good healthcare professional will appreciate that you're involved in your own health. And I think that is the thing I learned the most. Hey, Stacy, can you share the inspiration behind your latest book and how it came to fruition? Yes. As I said, Stacy, before, I was going through dialysis. I had an amputation in February of 2017, and then just 4 or 5 short months later, I started dialysis. And I was, sitting there in a recliner for 4 hours, and so I began to write my book. I had written some short stories and shared them on Facebook with my family. My family was back in Petersburg, Virginia. That's where I'm from, and they were getting good response. And people said you should write a book. So I wrote my first book, which was A Day in the Life of a Skilled Nurse Facility, a young man trapped in a nursing home. And then I started on my second book, which is with Worn Out Tools, Navigating Rituals of Midlife. And I wanted to take people on a little ride of starting at my 50th birthday party, which is the height kind of my life, at the height of my career. And then, like I said before, I was a global customer care representing, managing call centers in the Philippines, managing partners for call centers in the Philippines, Guatemala, Costa Rica, and El Salvador. And I had a cut on my leg. And within 1 year, I went from being this corporate executive, having a real innovative, great career, to being disabled. And that roller coaster ride takes people not just around the world, because I talk about my career, but also I talk about my depths into physical problems. What people ask me the most when I've done podcasts and interviews for my book is, were you ever frustrated, and did you ever want to give up? And what I got to tell you, yes. Not only was I frustrated, not only did I want to give up, but that happened this morning, getting dressed. It takes me so much as a double amputee to get dressed. I am discouraged every day, and I have to talk myself out of bed every day. But that's struggle. That's what you have to do. That's about those rituals of midlife. Great questions. Great questions. And I thank everyone for your wonderful questions. As I said before, my book is With Worn Out Tools, Navigating the Rituals of Midlife. It is about 105 pages long. It starts at my 50th birthday party, a party I had, and it goes through my amputation. Beverly McReynolds writes, life is often a fight. You should always fight back, no matter what. Yeah, Beverly, I agree with you. I always like to say that I don't want to go quietly into a good night. And the third part of this act is important to me to fight back, to move forward. I have my beautiful wife and I, Elaine. We'll talk about in my book quite a bit because that's the most important relationship in my life. We have 5 beautiful grandkids, and part of my motivation for coming back was to live for them, to build something for them. And even in the fact that I built a business, I want to leave a legacy for them. I want to leave a legacy that for my children's children, because that's what makes you a good man, right? The Bible says that a good man leaves a legacy for his children's children. And it is important for me, for my grandkids to say, he led a better life even after his amputations. That's kind of the core and the reason why I get up every morning, work my business, and why I'm sharing this stuff with you. I really appreciate you joining for my story and finding a little information. Victoria Robinson comments, you are a big inspiration to a lot of people. I'm sure of it. Thank you, Victoria. I hope so. I've had a chance to do about 12, 14, 15 podcasts from different regions of the country. And I like to think that it's making a difference. I really want people to learn from my mistakes, Victoria. I want people to learn, and especially men and the people that love them, to really have an opportunity to take on their health challenges head on. I was a little afraid when I cut my leg when I cut my foot on my snowboard. And I didn't face up to the problem. I had promised my wife that I would do better with my health. And in some ways I did. I'll say this real slowly. I used to weigh 465 pounds, and now I weigh a whopping 190. I lost over 270 pounds. And I've done these things with my health, but I didn't tackle my diabetes. And that was the cause of my issue. And so I really should have tackled that. I really should have met ahead going. I should have fought from that point, but I didn't. But now I'm fighting. Now I am fighting those rituals of midlife by being very involved, by keeping up with my medical appointments, by maintaining the vegetarian diet that I did to lose all that weight. And I'm not something special. I am no tower for faith or for even the values that I say are in my book. I'm just a fighter. The one thing I won't do is die, and just not easily. Hey, Mac. Yes, everyone deserves a comeback. And Mac, what a famous person once said, a setback is a setup for a comeback. A setback is a setup for a comeback. And I'm hoping to make the most out of my comeback. Mac, I am so thankful and grateful to be alive. I had a buddy of mine, and he got a left leg amputation the same time I got mine, the same amputation. And because he didn't have, I believe, because he didn't have strong relationships, he was in a nursing home, skilled nurse facility. He didn't have a lot of hope. And because of that, he eventually faded away. I miss him. I'm trying to learn that I was saved maybe for and live my life the way that he would if he was saved. A setback is a setup for a comeback. And I'm hoping to have a big comeback. That's why I'm asking you to buy my book with worn-out tools, Navigating the Rituals of Midlife. It's available on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble, or autographed copy on my website. Hey, Carmen. The book title is very apt title. Thank you. Tools that are worn out are often those that are given great care and use. They are often the ones that we find most reliable. Yes, Carmen. Great quote. You must be a writer as well. Carmen, one of my readers told me that worn out tools can be sharpened. And I believe they can be sharpened as well. And they're dependable. You know what to use with them. And like I said before, that phrase is from the poem If. And the poem If is about a man's advice to his son on how to be a man. And not in the toxic masculinity way that we know today, but those skills that are dependable. Making comebacks, not doubting yourself, and not confusing victory with failure. And at the core of that, that's what my book with Worn Out Tools is all about. Joyce, I love that name. My mother's name was Joyce. Frustration and thinking about giving up are all natural parts of life. The answer, though, is how you react to the struggle. I totally agree, Joyce. I believe that the answer is the response, right? Things happen, you become discouraged. What do? What do you do? Do you take action or do you wallow in it? And sometimes when things happen, you have to kind of stay there a little bit with it. You have to kind of mourn your way through it, but don't mourn forever. Don't mourn forever. Take action. And that's what I am trying to do every day. There's a quote by Teddy Roosevelt about being the man in the arena. The man in the arena is the one who deserves the credit, not the person that stands on the sideline and complains, but the man who's out there fighting through the dust and blood and tears of what happens. And I think about that quote all the time because I want my creator to say when I make it to heaven that, well done. You faced some tough things, but you came back. You fought your way out. And fighting is important. It's great. So once again, the name of my book was With Worn Out Tools, Navigating the Rituals of Midlife. I'd be honored if you had a copy of it, or get a copy for someone else. You know someone is going through a comeback because everybody faces them. One of the things I've enjoyed about my book is the fact that people have read it and told me, Darren, I read your book and I gave away the book to someone I knew that was going through a similar situation. There have been people that have got my book who are also going through an amputation. People got my book who are going through other heartache. I had one person that I was friends with in my Toastmasters group who was going through a cancer scare, and he read my book and got happy. Hey, Tony, that is indeed true. While tools may become scuffed and chipped, they can still be sharpened, honed, and improved. Agreed, Tony. Thank you for that comment. The person who gave me that compliment or gave me that feedback was my wife's ex-husband, and we become friends. And I agree with him. Worn out tools can be sharpened. He actually was going through a health scare himself, so I think he related to the book. If you know someone who's going through a tough time, if you know someone who's having an issue with loss of job or divorce or rebuilding their life in any way possible, get them a copy of With Worn Out Tools. It is motivational and inspirational, but it's also very funny. I have a kind of sick sense of humor. As I said before, the second core value is optimistic humor. And I try to use that humor in my book. When you're an amputee or a disabled person, you gotta laugh. Why? Because some funny stuff happens. Like the first time I met my new neighbors, I was going out for my first drive with my wife, and I fell, bam, on the ground right afterwards. And we were waiting for the paramedics to come and pick me up. My new neighbors came and went to the apartment, and I looked up at them and shook their hand. Very weird way to meet some people. I fall a lot, and thank goodness someone's always there to pick me up. Like the time those 20 nursing students in the hospital had to pick me up on my way to a meeting. I gotta admit, that wasn't too bad. You gotta learn to laugh. With Worn Out Tools, Navigating Rituals of Midlife. Thank you so much for all the questions, for all the interaction. I think some of you all have returned. I hope you buy my book. With Worn Out Tools, Navigating Rituals of Midlife. It is available everywhere books are sold, but Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and on my website, www.courier.com. And I'm hoping to build a speaking business with sharing my stories across the world. So please reach out to me at DC Lyons, www.courier.com. Courier is spelled Korrior. And if you want to speak about me speaking to your organization. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions. And I look forward to you the next time I'm at Reader's Magnet Online Storytelling Festival. I will be speaking again, I think at 11 tomorrow Eastern, and look forward to seeing all y'all. Thank you for sharing my story.